Great Nation, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Coach on this Thursday, April 9th. It's going to be an absolute amazing day. I've got some meetings I've got to attend to today, but this morning, what I want to talk about is stop allowing the narrator position in your life. Stop allowing the narrator. Let me try this again. Stop letting the narrator position in the story of your life be narrated and filled by someone or thoughts that have no business dictating your life. Stop allowing the mindset that you shouldn't have, but you have, that is currently narrating your life, dictate the outcome of your life. You say, Coach, what do you mean by that? I kind of get a hint of what you mean by that, but I'm not really tracking. In a galaxy far, far away. If I say that, you probably know that I'm talking about Star Wars. As we know, I'm not a Star Wars fan, but it's the thing that came to my mind this morning. If I were to say something of, these are the voyages of if you're a Star Trek fan, you know how that finishes. I am sure that you have watched a movie or a TV series or something where somewhere in that entertainment, there is a narrated part that moves the story forward. Whether what is being narrated is actually what you should be paying attention to or not. For example, I can say all day long, in a galaxy far, far away. But I promise you folks that no matter how many times I say that, no matter how many times that splashes across your screen, no matter, and I'm going to hurt someone's feelings today, no matter how many times someone reads that out loud, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Jabba the Hutt, they don't exist. They're not real. It is a made-up story. But yet, reading those words or hearing that narrated gives us a sense in the form of entertainment that they could be real, and that they might be out there, and that the rebellion is out there, or the Klingons are out there, if you want to go to the Star Trek route. But it doesn't matter how many times we hear the elven voice of Galadriel in The Lord of the Rings talk about all of the rings that were made and where they were given to and who got them, and then the one ring, it doesn't exist. But for that moment, when we are being entertained, for that moment when we are sitting back and we're stopping and we're saying, I'm just going to watch this and I'm going to be entertained, we entertain the idea and we are drawn into a story, a made up story, that we are entering into a world of fantasy, of star journers, doesn't make sense, of those traveling the stars or those trekking the hills of Middle Earth. But it doesn't exist. But we allow ourselves to believe that it exists, and we are drawn into that world of fantasy based upon a narrative, based upon a voice, based upon an opening scene of credits. A powerful narrative with a good voice. In fact, there is a whole market of voiceovers. There is a whole job line of individuals who do voiceovers. Because why? We understand subconsciously that a very strong or a strong, powerful voice can lend to the authenticity of what is being said, even if what is being said is not true. Now, I understand we're talking about movies, we're talking about fantasy. But unfortunately, in our lives, we have a narrative that all too often is playing in the background of our existence. That narrative is built upon things that have happened, things that have been said to us, stories that we have been told. I was told my whole life growing up that if you were to trace my heritage back and my lineage back through my father's branch of the family tree, you would come across that we have ancestors who were Native American. And for my whole life, I did research. In fact, as an author, my very first story as an 8-year-old kid was writing about a young Native American boy. I was proud of that. In fact, I was so proud of it because not only were we told we had Native American heritage, it was from a tribe that most people didn't know existed, and or most people don't tie themselves back to. And so I grew up my whole life believing this narrative and being proud of this narrative until probably about 5 years ago. My father did a DNA Ancestry.com to check your lineage. And we found out through that we have zero Native American heritage when it comes to his line of the family tree. Where that narrative started, I am unaware. I was assured that it had come from extensive research. But that narrative had been started somewhere and had been given validity by someone saying, this was done by extensive research, which gave it power in the subconsciousness of saying, oh, it has to be true. And then someone picked it up and began to share it. And as they shared it, the more it was shared, the more it was believable. And the more that it was believed, the more concrete it became in the history of our families. And so in doing so, I believed a narrative of my life that actually wasn't true. And I will tell you, when that came out, I was dumbfounded. I was like, "Are really?" On my mother's side, I had been raised that you can take our lineage and our family tree on my mother's side all the way back to the President John Adams and his son John Quincy Adams. In fact, I have a younger sister whose name is Abigail. And she was named that as part of going back to Abigail Adams. My mother, when they named her, said there's never been another Abigail in our family since Abigail Adams. And I was proud of that. I would tell people I am related to the second and the sixth president of the United States. Years later, I was building out my family tree when it came to Ancestry.com. And again, I had been told that this had been verified. I had been told that we had family members who had done a lot of research. And that was the narrative that was pushed forward. And it was the narrative that was believed. In fact, so much today that it is the narrative that some family members still believe and refuse to say otherwise. Until I was able to prove we are related to a John Adams, but we are not related to the president, John Adams. It was a different John Adams. That name was very popular back then. The idea that no other John Adams would be alive is ridiculous, but no one ever contemplated that when building the family lineage tree. They just came to a point where they found the name John Adams and automatically assumed the narrative to be something that it was not. Now, it kind of sounds a little similar. It's silly. But the truth of it is we do this every day in our own mindset. We have allowed our mind to pick up the narrative of our lives from other people, whether it be a family member, whether it be a parent, a significant other, whether it be life in those we are around. We have chosen to accept a narrative in our lives that then we allow that narrative to be the introductory into the movie of our lives. And we believe it and we follow it. Unfortunately, we do not recognize then that narrative may not be true. And this can go either direction. It can be that we have an inflated view of our life. And because of that inflated view, we do not spend time working on ourselves at all. Because why should I? I am just this great, amazing individual that the world around me should be honored that they get to live in my world. At the same time, we have individuals who have a great story and are powerful in their own right. They have amazing abilities and are able to truly change the world around them, but they are not doing so because they have believed the narrative before the movie has even started. A false narrative that was written by someone else, and it was repeated to someone else. And somewhere along the way, it became concreted into the psyche of our mind. And we have allowed it to be true, even though it is not. So who owns the narrator position in your life? It should be you. This is your movie. This is your life. You are the director of it. If you remain in the director's seat. But many of you have taken yourselves out of the director's seat. You have allowed someone else to sit in it, and they now are controlling the narrative of your life, and not you. Today, you need to kick that person out. You need to retake the director's seat of your life. You need to control the narrative of your life. It is yours. It does not matter if someone else believes it or not. What matters is, A, what is truth? 2, what are you going to put forth on the screen of your life so that the world can see? True. Maybe the first time you put the narrative up there, it wasn't a good narrative. The beauty of it is that we can create sequels to our life, chapters to our lives. And each one of those chapters can have a header. Each one of those can have a title. Each one of those can have a new narrative that, when put together, shows the growth of who we have become, where we started, where we are. And the beauty of a narrative, it can set you up to see where you're going. So, who's controlling the narrative? Who is the narrator? Today, what narrative do you believe? More importantly, what one should you believe? Your response is your responsibility. Hope that you got something from this today. I hope it was empowering for you. I hope that truly I gave you something to chew on that you can take away today and go, oh man, that hit. Because that's why we do Coffee with Coach. It's to challenge you. So, in a galaxy far, far away, what's the rest of the story? Because I could say in a galaxy far, far away, and then you're thinking of Star Wars, and I take you into these are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to seek out and explore strange new worlds, to boldly go where no one has gone before, which would be Middle Earth. What's the narrative?
They say I won't, but I say I will. I can, I will, now watch me still. My response is my responsibility now.